大家好.
So, Rinpoche wishes all of you Tashi Dele.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. And 드린데 주시 들어왔다. 주저 이번에 som도 차가서도 주시 직체 디젤 양가 주저 10번에 나버였어. 들어와. 주시 이번에 또 니스연한도.
So, with regard to Rinpoche's talk today, there are actually two sessions. One session is from 2 to 3:30, and then there's a break, and after that, Rinpoche will commence from 4 to just after 5:30.
제 따통보대 가시오래 따들인데 Tibetan Buddhist Center 스쿠티 도스나 도스셰브레 안 도치쇼여스.
And to start with, Rinpoche would like to thank the organizers of the Tibet Buddhist Center who have made this possible, who've brought everything together, prepared everything for this.
제 따벽이 소바 싱가포르 벽 소바 첨부이나 따 대베 로망고시rin가야 잘래 망고시 도스나요레 디토리아 직다 소바 탕부 서주나니레 다네싱기 직 속소다 속션 제요 망고시 깔레게 엔티션도 기신된라레 상매 깔레도스 망고시 겸니 엔도스 넘버에 투치쇼요.
That's it. So with regard to the TBC, the Tibetan Buddhist Center, so they have been one of the first centers, one of the first organizations here, Tibetan organizations who've come here, who established a center here in Singapore. So for many years, they've been working very hard to make all this happen, to organize events and so forth. And so therefore, Rinpoche would like to thank the president or the head of this particular center, the vice president or the assistant president or the assistant head, plus all the other workers of the center for their dedicated work.
대신도 벽에 다 주소로와 DCB 전부 있네요. 겨울음식이 믹스에게 둘이 레와 도스낭 다 남배 주소직 차대요래 배개좀 차대요래 인도 단도보도 kalé mongo kyan yorela muthune ji chawalabji mongo chek yarge yoya dan ti rewashuyus.
No say. So, likewise, this particular center, the TCB, plays a huge part, an important part from the point of view of the support of the Tibetan society, and especially His Holiness the Dalai Lama has great hopes in this center, has great aspiration and great wishes for the thriving of this center. And so therefore, Rinpoche is saying it is important that the center will continue. They have until now worked very hard making events and other programs possible, and Rinpoche's hope is that it will continue like that the center will continue to thrive and expand even further.
따탄데 주시 당부대 안가란서 따취기 토네 다 대버 여버 소인에저 대버 매벌이야 지 펜도 가르치 두고요. 그래서 다 주시디로 디레도 도스체 다 디토로야 직슈에인다.
So with regard to the topic of today's talk, so the topic concerns believers and non-believers, how the Dharma, the Buddha Dharma is, or the Dharma is helpful for both believers and non-believers. So this will be the topic, this is the topic Rinpoche will talk about today.
다 디네 쳐를 때네 최대 여버다 매벌이야 펜도 컨데스 치토고 요레스 다 딜이야 잉엘 쳐를 때네서 최대 당은 삼단다 먹고시 있기를 상고도스.
So therefore, independence on the Dharma, how believers or non-believers both are benefited. So when we talk about this particular topic, then with regard to the Dharma, there are many different explanations as regards to what Dharma means or what the Dharma is.
제 따치얼 때네서 대체데 따지단기 점링 나로리아 줄로 먹고시라 여러분. 아직 힌두레 이슈레 다니시 가지 안낭베 줄로 먹고시라 요래 대단제베 최냠네 먹고 요래 대달 때네 제라랑 테메 유멜이야 펜도 근데 제마제 톨라 삼단시 여러분.
Nari. So with regard to the word Dharma here, so Dharma, or which can be translated as religion, so there's so many religious or spiritual systems in this world. There's the Hindu Dharma, there is the Christian Dharma, the Muslim Dharma, of course the Buddhist Dharma, so many different types of spiritual systems or many different types of Dharma here. And this is also something to be taken into consideration, how these different Dharmas are beneficial for believers as well as for non-believers.
다 이내야 다들 급스 봐봐 다 취했어야 돼 다르마데 남경도 다 상계비 취기 시샤시네 지슈너와 남경 부다 다마 상가스시네 다 상계 취긴디 숨유변하게 다 상계비 취 시샤시네 지슈인다.
So, but here on this occasion, although there's these different types of Dharma, different types of religious systems, here Rinpoche's focus will be the Buddha Dharma, or the religious system set forth by the Buddha. And so here you have the threefold, you have the trinity of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha here, so of the Buddha, his teachings, and the community. And in that case here, what Geshe-la in that connection will talk to is the Buddha Dharma.
따뜻한 상계기 취를 때는 알아서 최대 유매 여보다 매발이야 팬도 근데서 연구열에서 제디기 알아서 3년으로야 고도 레벨라 engel 알아서 최도 취를 대바 여보 있는데 취를 대바 매바 있는데 창매 팬도 용야기 디기디 로 팬토야기 시 디기디 가리인 버딩 아주 신고야 돼 캐치블을 했음부터.
And in order to here therefore talk about how Buddha Dharma, how the Dharma is beneficial, how it can actually benefit, so for you to get an understanding, to be able to comprehend that type of benefit, whether with regard to a person who's a believer or whether with regard to a person who's not, but how it benefits here, well, we need to therefore talk about the basis of that benefit, which is happiness, which is well-being. So when we talk about that, then an understanding can ensue.
최대 유여번 담매베 밑잠도 못세베 점블링 디토라 유여베 다 좋아 컨트롤 신베이네야 창물로 지디기 되어버데 상마 찍버봐.
So with regard to living beings on this planet, in this world, so whether they are believers in the Dharma or not, so we're not just talking about humans here, we're talking about all living beings. So all living beings of this world, what they all have in common is the fact that they wish to be happy.
세상 좋아 컨트롤이네야 즉 저와 가르치베 있네야 디지 소소소래야 팬도지 존나 삼네 이러와체 겸니 상마 체바디 지규로.
So basically, whatever living beings do, whatever activity they engage in, their main goal is their own benefit. Benefit in the sense that they experience happiness. So all the activities are geared towards that particular goal. And so living beings are all the same in that way.
디인디sambalata ngaranso ki ngonegi ji digi chona sambada 다니신 저와 가르치베네야 취를 대화치네다 지금 대신도 대법 매받는 제외 저와 가르쳐베이네야 디기다 팬도직 중나선배 디기 딩야랭 알아서 지금 문진체야 백해친 부르도.
So therefore, if this is the goal, happiness is the goal. So in terms of someone who has believed or is a believer in the Dharma, or a person who's not a believer in the Dharma, so any living being, if all the activities are geared towards the attainment of happiness, then that happiness needs to be described. It needs to be elaborated on.
대신도 사고도 즉 취를 때네. 말한 소리야. 즉 편도 근데 다 지금 연구여봐다. 된소리야. 말한 소리 편도 근데 연구여봐다. 된소 신고야 돼. 쉬우 캐치 버셔.
And in particular, if that is true, that happiness does arrive, if it's said that happiness arrives from the Dharma, if that's the case, if that's the goal of Dharma, then therefore this has to be explained how independence on the Dharma actually happiness can ensue or can occur.
자, 따디인데 말한소 상물로리아 지 중나선배 디기디 되 먼저 체오도 따디인데 먼저 디기디 간데를 없이 있어요.
So this happiness that we all need to search. So we all need to search for happiness. We're all striving towards finding that happiness. So what is that happiness? What is it? I think Rinpoche is asking you, so what is
제가
happiness?
아주 상물로 단다 때 디나 요된 게 상물로 되기 좋은 상구도
So all of all of us here in this room, we all wish to be happy, isn't that right?
제가 간조 대패딩에서 제 최체백급이네야 최텔라 때는 되기 좋은 상구 열라 대신도 최도 만제베 남경으로서 저와 가르치베네야 되기 좋은 상구도
So those of you who are here, when you engage in the Dharma, you do it with the goal of finding some happiness. So this is your motivation of engaging in Dharma practice. And then even independent of Dharma practice, all the activities you engage in are with the goal in mind to experience some happiness and well-being.
제가 디기스한테 컨디를 보시는스레스
So therefore, what is that happiness?
제가 따디 맞을이야 고야게 디기디 맞을 야고시 하코비나 들어와 또 최케네니에 최를 대버여버래 최를 대버매버래 상매 토벌 되비 디기디 야고시 심바이나 안디네 상계의 최를 되네 즉 편도 영단디 즉 신야리야 편도 연구です.
So therefore, since all of us, what we need is happiness, is all we're striving for is happiness, so whether we're believers or not, so therefore it's since we all need the same thing, it's important to check whether this happiness can be found in dependence on the Dharma, whether there's a possibility of achieving that which we wish for.
다 디기 가르레도스 맞으인다 맞은 난자인다 망가 생에 마생에 이내야 지 디기 등에 디기 디기열에 캔서 이내야 디기 되버 직벌을 하면서 미직벌에 다는 생게 지 따셔리야 도나여베 직벌에 디인데 삼발라 당아서 세우 말다 디인데 디기사의 가르인서레스.
So therefore, don't be shy to actually express your own opinion here. So just among us, as like a group, as like an intimate group, don't feel shy because we're all the same. Rinpoche as well as you are. So all being the same in wishing for happiness. And so Rinpoche would like to hear what you perceive happiness to be. Would like to hear your opinion. So don't be shy. Just speak frankly. So what is happiness? Please voice your opinion. 작범에보다 작보단 채와.
알레 작보다 채와. 되네 신다서 가래.
Okay, so more suggestions?
양게스 카라.
알레 숙진단데 샘데단테 와도시다. 숙진단데 숙진기 잘라된서 지응오보단데 가서 샘데체라 디단테 와인 봐.
샘데테 채와.
어디 샘데다.
Oh, good. Then
More? Go ahead.
양게인다. 이외.
More people, please, again.
Who raise your hand so I bring the mic to you?
Okay.
Yeah. 생기시대.
Peace of mind.
Yeah. Very good. 네, 상물로 오빠하고 송송.
Very good. Rinpoche is very pleased with your input.
저한테 다가라 저기 생기시대래. 라는 생기 당기선부든서 란소기 다 저와께때 디기딩원에 디자오레스와.
So it's exactly like that, the way you express this. So this is the kind of happiness we're looking for. So peace of mind and so forth. So all the comments that you made definitely express what we mean with happiness here.
제가 다 말한서 문에게 저 디기디 당길러버는 생기 저 생기 시디다 샘단 제외 디기드로 동호역이 디기디 차기 열와 캐치쇼 아주 디기 거야디 소디 차기 열와.
So therefore, in reality, it is true that this happiness we're looking for is a happiness that is found in the mind. So peace of mind, it is a type of well-being that connects to consciousness or awareness.
다 디기디 생기 시디다 제외 디기디 차기 열들래 아주 전불링 디나로래야 지미 통교 든주 열에 대백걸래야 미 장매와지 총사버래 다 연속이 디기 채야 디 탑시 근데스 치기열에.
So therefore, happiness here with regard to happiness, actually referring to this mental, peaceful state of mind. Well, in this world, if we look at this world right now, 7 billion people live on this planet. And so there have been countless living beings living on this earth, on this planet in the past. So how have sentient beings brought about happiness? How are they going about their pursuit of happiness?
대신도 점링 디나로래야. 다 디기 주비야 다 다는 신기 지조래야. 다시 팬디 주비야기 체도 미유 먹고시 송네 신유 먹고시 라고 요래.
So likewise in this world, so to bring forth happiness, so many attempts have been made to bring forth happiness, to make people happy or to bring us happiness. So one of the attempts, one of the tools or the means to do so is receiving an education, seen as a tool for well-being.
이내야 단대 점링 나로래야 땡기 쉬브나 신기 다 신유기 토네야 지금 밀려야 팬디 주비야 단데서 그 신유기 롭소디 갑작한데 간 주고요 되는 거사
롭소디
이 신유 토네 지조래야 팬디 주비야 다 삼단 지기요리 딜레 딘데베 신유디 롭소제단데 탑롬 컨데지 간 주고요
And so therefore, with regard to this particular, with the education as a tool towards happiness, now we need to see how education, how learning can actually bring forth happiness. What is the right measure resulting in that particular goal?
그래서 신유기 토네야 드린 것을 롭소 제데서 랍저레 다는 신기 즉 신유 망고시기 롭소 제단데 즉 칭오보단 제외 그봐 즉 칭오보단 제외 yarge tanya zo ming chik benjo re dana shingi tedan jewe thone rwata chik chungo bo yarge dan tanya zo ming lobso te de gyo.
However, nowadays, education is geared towards the school, like the education you find in schools and other institutions. So this education is mainly geared towards material development. So this is the main goal, where it's basically connected to, having possessions and so forth, anything else like financial gain, etc. Now all the education is basically pursuing this goal of material development. Is that right?
대신도 딘데베 롭소던 제네 즉대 데베 로자라 카셰링갈이야 신기 따로 조단디 교와직 친네 딘데베 롭소 요원네 야 중den교기 상론 중den교기 미소이네야 즉 디기 주야데 조조 지기 치로기 튕긴다 다는 신기 즉 교노레 왕당레 다 민레 대신도 치 튕긴기 돈에 쏘야 디기 주야지 딘데간 주고요.
And so likewise, when we talk about learning, so over many years, that has been part of society, but the way it has actually changed. So with regard to learning, the goal of learning being basically human happiness, and then basically that happiness is seen in outside factors. So outside factors are seen as that which brings human beings happiness, such as possessions, power, reputation, being famous and so forth. So all this has been seen as that which brings happiness, and the learning goal is geared towards that, has been since some time now geared towards that.
대신도 등기 알아서 디기 약하레스체 마케지 집에 가서 지금 샘기 시디다 아디는 먹고 싶어서 나가란 차대로 이내야 알아서 단도 디나를 여버서 이내야 제 디기 세야디 또 지금 샘기 돈 디기 세야가는 주고도 양 지금 치료기 균노다 다는 생기 지금 레가단 제와 아니 딘데 지금 통에 디기 주에 또 주고도 되면서 삼도 야고단 것도.
So, having asked you this question about what you think happiness is, and you've really given some good answers. You talked about peace of mind, and you gave some other answers with regard to that. But now let's look at this here. Let's be here together as we're here as a group together. So Rinpoche is asking you, your personal attempts towards finding happiness. Does that have to do with bringing happiness to your mind? Do you look for happiness within your mind, or are you looking outside of your mind? Are you looking for financial gains and possessions and getting a good job and so forth? Or how does it work for you personally? How is it? peace of mind versus outside.
제가 인도 따뜻한게 먼저 디기사야데 제조 생비 디기리 생비 시디리에서 딘지 당기 송송 디칸즈 상모모딘 유베스.
So someone said here, the happiness is peace of mind, but do you really feel that way? Do you really act upon that?
모든 유스 말다스.
It doesn't seem you agree.
그래. 먼저 땅문에게 말아서 디기 구구도 챤에 딱 한다 제께와 먼저 깨와 가지 셰베이네 깨와 딱 나방아마 남서 지 디기 구구도 챤에도 제 탑시 챤 레벨에 딱 깨와 가지 깨지 마셰베이네 가란서 메즈딜 차샤베이네 소스 메즈나 삼스tam베이네야 지 소스 삼로 땅 보고 추주 감네체 지 다다기 봐도 지 디기 추나 삼네 숑버레 다나신 소스 삼도 마세베 소스 크루 이 점블인 디나로 미 통교에 봐 참으로 지 디기 추나 삼네 도스 그뒤에는 삼단 두여로.
So actually, if you think about it, all of us needing happiness. So if you were to consider previous life, so even in previous life, we've done everything. We've strived towards being happy. This has been our pursuit in previous lives. And even leaving aside previous lives, just talking of this particular life right now. So since we were very little, we were thinking, may I be happy? May happiness arise? May I be happy? And so we strived since a very small age, since we were children, towards that goal. And likewise, all these beings around us in the environment, the 7 billion people on this planet, all the other humans on this planet, having the same goal.
딘데 왜 디기 디 망고치기다 갈라오래 디기 구구도 시작하시기다 디기사 균어를 야고 충분히나 땅 디기 용사를 삼네 디 배선 쇼치기요.
맞지.
양카시기 지 디기 디 용야기 셔도 지 수수 디 갈라오래 지기 다 수구탕다는 삼다니 아직 디기 문진칭이야 요래 다네 신게 것이 명칭부 차야래야 삼스탄데 다디 디기 쇼지기 삼다네 도스 배선 신야 요래 안 대신도 레가 람롱 야 디기 삼다네 지 디트비아기 탑시신데 다미 삼로 망고 톤데도 드라마데 톤데도 치기요.
나지나. So therefore, with regard to happiness, all of us needing happiness, but we've seen happiness to come from different factors. So for some, happiness seems to be found in having material possession, of being rich, being wealthy, prosperous. And then for others, well-being and happiness means having a healthy body. And then there are those who need reputation, who need to be famous, and they need to have a good standing in society in terms of their reputation. And then others who look for a good job, a well-paid, a good kind of job. So there are different kind of pursuits with regard to happiness.
제 이내야 땅 알아서 배나 균어 차샤비나 알아서 디기 구도사 디잉원에디 지 균어들베.
But let's take one of those factors. So if we see happiness in wealth, to check again, can wealth really bring us happiness? Is that the happiness we're looking for? The happiness that is found in wealth?
Yes or no? 대신도 말한서 즉 수구탄다 다시 그시 수구 탕길라버는 신기 수구 대단데 디길 삼단에 디직식이요래 수구 대단데 양아서 디기 차셔 레들 응문에게 말한서 지 디기 구구도 사이기 디기 지겠다 요메바스네라 디기 템포들을 베스.
And likewise regarding the next factor of having a healthy body. So of course the body being a part of us, so having a healthy body, we see that as a way of finding happiness. But if you check, is it really a way to be happy, just having a healthy body?
Yes, no. 제 안따뜻 대신도 된게 러브네 신경아서 지금 명칭부 차야 쇼르바 맨날 내가 잡으시 야 다치르치네 지금 명칭부 차야 다는 신기 직제무제아래 대신도 지금 레리 망고톤의 명칭부 차야 티야 먼저기 디기 공원에기 디기 대체가요.
And similarly, if we explore the possibility or explore reputation, becoming famous, becoming well-known, so for instance, by way of working a job so that you're working yourself up and make a career, and at that time becoming well-known, or through sports, for instance, so using sports as a means to become famous, and other methods? Do you believe that this type of fame and being well known, is that a way to happiness, or does that really lead to happiness?
No, 말해. 다 인도 삼발 땅 알아서 디기 그뒤에 양 톱을 뒤기 열라. 다 디기디 톱을 뒤에 디기 된 거서 사무 땅고도 째고도 아주 저기 최신예서 이내자 최로 토나 연예서 이내자 제 군두네 되게 라버는 신기 디기 고고도 삼배 삼로 뒤도 다 디기 원에 가서 디기디 최고에 뺏겨친부도
And so therefore, since we all want happiness, we all want to be happy, it's something that we always want, so therefore it's important to look for it. What is that happiness? To explore, to investigate, what does it actually refer to? So whether you have faith in the Dharma or you have not, it is important to really explore that type of happiness, that well-being.
제가 다 디기디 간다 딱 하나서 디기디 당에 마실라비는 당길라비는 신간주 셈러야 지 시신 투어 지 셈러야 강에 매봐 아니 삼로디 지 기부직 템부직 충분히나 디디기원의 차가요 말했어.
That's it. And so with regard to happiness, as it has been mentioned before, happiness as in like peace of mind and having a subdued type of peaceful, subdued kind of mind. So without any mental problems, a firm, a stable type of happiness. Would you agree that is the kind of happiness to look for? Is that really this happiness that we're looking for? Is that the type of happiness or not? Just between us, just very so very intimately in that intimate group, just is there any thought that comes to mind? Is there any way in which you can think about that, or any opinion?
야야 딱 간다 먼저 제 쌤기 간제 디기디 다 개심 부셔지 또 뭐를 또 차대요.
No, but so anyhow, it is a fact that it's this peace of mind, that happiness, that happiness that comes from the mind, that is so important.
그래서 다들 쌤기 그런서 쌤기보다 쌤기 시대 용야려야 제 칸에 쌤기 시대 용보쇼 쌤기보 용보쇼 제 한가라서 러버지고게 쌤기보다 쌤기 시대 용 도구마로.
However, so though we wish for happiness, we wish for a happy mind, we wish for peace of mind, but just kind of reciting, oh, may my mind be happy, may my mind be happy, that will not become a cause, that will not become sufficient to experience happiness and peace of mind.
다들 조조 먼저 쌤리야 시대 용발라 쌤기 다 쌤나로리야 먹이고 용케 안 쌤버디 시딜리야 마네비 치겐다 된성가란수 지 고괴 토네 지 매버스베 토네 한가란수 쌤디 템부지다 쌤디 기부 용도 최고로
도베 토네
매디 쌤기나로리아 지 쌤 먹이고 소겐데 좀 매버스베 토네 한가란수 And
so with regard to this happiness of mind, so to become happy and to remove that which leads to unhappiness, that which is the opposite of that peace of mind. So we need to make an effort, therefore, to bring this forth, to remove that which prevents this type of happiness. We need to actually make an effort towards that.
탁도 딘데지 몽고시 여바이나 나가는서 셈바디 기부치 내지 연구마로.
And so therefore it is actually it's truly the case that certain afflictive negative emotions such as anger, aversion, competitiveness, jealous competitiveness, that those type of afflictive emotions, when they're present, we cannot truly be happy when they're there. 생기톤에 디기 고에라 제 셈보 먹이버서 행기 등기 라브는 신기 저 공로시에다 타도다 된서 먼저 숙충으로 담배 톤에 셈디 제 디기다 셈보 기부 용도도 최고로. And so therefore, since those are the factors that make us unhappy when they arise in our mind, anger, aversion, jealous, competitiveness, and so forth. So since they prevent us from being happy, it is crucial to remove them, to weaken them and to remove them.
딘데 다 딘데지 콩로 체단다 된소 지 매버서야려야 안가서 3년 나로려야 지 콩로 체단 차도다 된소기 다 님보스네자 대다 매버서야기 지 탑람 상불로 지 참바단 세와다 안된소 yar게다네 안가서 셈디 콩로 체단다 된소 왕도 만조버지 최고로.
So therefore, if we think about it, if those are the minds that make us unhappy, aversion, anger, and so forth, so we need to remove them from our mind. And we need to therefore consider the antidote, if you like, or the means that help us to remove them. So the means and methods towards their removal, which are found in positive states of mind, helpful states of mind, such as love, loving kindness, and so forth. So those are the types of awareness one needs to work towards.
대신당 그래서 이제 참바다 지금 재왔어야다 지금 쇠센다 지금 촉색이 아니 로단데서 초진에 그래서 되길러버는 신기 지금 공로 시단데서 매버 서비스 토네 지금 소소 셈버디기 용해 지금 아 대신도 된데 로든서 요버이나 그래서 셈버 기비 토네 근도냥 가서리아 편도 침부시 요한시 철로
맞아요. And so likewise, with regard to those states of mind that make us happy, so here we talk about love, loving kindness, as well as patience, forbearance, and contentment. So those are all states of mind that, first of all, they remove the negative afflictive emotions such as anger and so forth, and they bring happiness. They bring happiness to our mind, and they benefit us. So therefore, they benefit us in a particular way.
제 뒤인데 잠발았다 등길러버는 신기 상계의 취업이 토리야 지금 상계의 슝로 초진의 가심부시라 요래 아 상계의 슝로 나로네 소지기 랍자스네다 냠nen시아도 소디 등길러버는 신기 소수 소 삼류 토네 삼로 열게 줘야 직탕 삼로 열게 줘야 나로려야 삼류 기타 연대 즉 참바다 제와서야다 닝제다 된소 공배도 줘야지 아니 대단냠도 지금 먹이버 속에 샘 투버치게 소소 샘 먹이버 삼도 마세베 셴레네 강에 속에기 공로스다 셰다다 차도로서 보던 즉 숙충으로 다야 다 림베 매버다야 딘데지기 토네 소 상교 슝기 토네 딘데지 승구열라 최단 저비 냠네셔야 소 딘데지 차구열에
맞아요. And so therefore, as mentioned before, so with regard to Buddhism, the Buddha Dharma here, in particular when we look at the different Buddhist texts, the Buddhist scriptures, which are so vast and expansive, so actually their main advice, if you want to kind of summarize their main advice, is that our way of thinking needs to be adjusted. It needs to be changed and transformed so that we remove those negative types of thoughts, those negative types of mind, such as anger, jealousy, envy, and so forth, and they need to be replaced with love, loving kindness, as well as compassion. And so that, together with that, therefore, this is that which makes us unhappy. It is that which makes us unhappy, these negative states of mind, weakening them and removing them, and then replace them as just described. So this is really the core of the Buddha Dharma. This is the principle, these are the principal points of the scriptures.
저기 참바단 제와다 상글로 된소기 공비치나 가슬로 편도여 봐. 안 대신에 저 공르시단 차도로서 받은소 저 숙충으로 담배나 가슬로 편도여 봐 직타 안 대달 되네. 가슬이야 디기 주비하다. 가슬 디기사데 된소다 저여 봐 친구서 삼로 야고지 코비나 한 상기 위치를 되네. 최대 유베솔라 편도여래. 다는 신기직 최대 매버솔라이네야 편도여래. 칸에서는 최대 유버이네다 최대 매버이네다 상물로 대화되어봐도 동해 매도비 직거래 대화되어봐도 동해 매도바 태양소 직생비 토네 고버 인드삼발라 직상계비 슝기 토네 생ความ열게 다야기 랍셔래 셈기 강에 매버서야기 된소 랍자타 한 된소기 땐데 편도 좀 쉬어요 봐.
So therefore, with regard to these states that Rinpoche mentioned before, so love, loving kindness, compassion, and so forth, they actually benefit us. They bring us happiness. versus these negative states of mind that harm our happiness. And since all we need, what we want is happiness, we need to really consider this. We need to really think about the benefit of those positive states of mind versus the disadvantage of the negative ones. And then no matter whether you have faith in the Dharma or not, it doesn't matter. This works for all in the same way. And since we're all the same, whether having faith in the Dharma or not, in wishing to be happy, in wishing to be satisfied and so forth. So since we're all the same in that sense, so this happiness, our suffering and our happiness actually come from our own mind. They come from our own mind. It's a psychological state. So it's through psychological transformation here that happiness can be brought about, no matter who you are.
때 캐나즈다 망고지 추로 토나요레 캐시슈디 지간조기 따든게 뭐시 망고슈비에 소소이 디기 사이드 야고지 무에심베 토네 안 딘데지 토네 추로 토나다 디리스나 토베네 오네기 펜도 신부 연구래 셴딘 멤버체 한직 추여체네 지 파르제세야선로다 다네 신기지 레가 남로 용야선로다 딘데기 토르 체비나
So therefore, since all of you basically have an interest in the Dharma, there's some natural interest that you have, therefore it is most important that you actually recognize that happiness, you recognize what this type of happiness refers to. And so if you have faith in the Dharma, to work accordingly and use the methods and means to bring forth that mental transformation. And not to use the Dharma. I mean, if you use the Dharma only to cultivate some imprints, to lay have some imprints, or just to get a good job, for instance, then you're just taking a very small part of the Dharma, and you're not using it to the fullest extent.
대신도 당기시면은 다 지금 전부다 아직 재와서야다 이제 닝지단데서 안줄이야 지금 편도 뭐네 소설로 편도 여버 삼도 마세베 지금 지조를 이내야 편도 럽신 여버 직 차대요.
And not only our love, loving kindness and compassion, not only do they benefit us personally, but they also benefit our community. They benefit society.
자, 초진에 아주 지조나로리아 드링 가상기 롭스 제조다 드리지게 소소란 삼로다네. 그러와 직선의 삼로마다 붙이 소소지 경부체와 삼 소소지워기 야 삼로단데디 경부적으로 지기요래. 다 현래야 삼로단 즉 다른 생기 현래야 즉 참바단 제와도 드리지 체딩이 미디 거브리 커시게 즉 접종으로 아니 드리기 통술레기요래.
So on one hand, there's this tendency we can find nowadays with regard to the contemporary society, our present society, in the sense that a person who's looking after their own needs, who are just interested in their own self-interest, and they work towards their own kind of benefit, is seen as a clever type of person. Whereas someone who works for the benefit of others, who dedicates their work towards others and thinks of others' well-being, is often regarded as a weak type of person, as not very capable.
대신도 그런 소리 지 망부지기 지도 나로리아 지 파마레 된소기 지 부울이야 롭스게베거래 대신도 지 초보 난자리 파지 거기 펜도 지나 삼배 삼류톤에 롭스게미도 그냥 경부체고다. 좋아. 디모도베 지 셈보 상부체고다. 다른 신기 지 참바단 제와도 딘데지 토네 지 셈디기 용답 체고다스디 롭스게인데 빼용요로.
나지. So likewise with regard to our parents, so it's very common that parents as well as friends, so when they advise us how to live our lives, so actually wanting to benefit us out of that kind of wish to help us, they give us the advice, be clever in that way. And it's quite rare to find our parents and friends advising us, have a good heart, be a good-hearted, kind-hearted person, have love, have loving kindness and compassion. That is much rarer.
동월이야, 그래서 지금 밀이야, 잠재다 내지 체베이나, 지금 퍼져리야, 무슨 팽기 유연해면에 당부디 소설을 팽기도.
맞지. So in reality, actually, if we're loving, if we have a loving and a kind attitude, whether we can actually benefit the other person, not taking that into consideration directly, and actually it benefits us.
강보디 가르친 것도 쓰는 아주 삼련나로야 직신 디기 중나 선배 삼로요 다른 신기 신 강에 최된 교수비는 된주 직강에다 직세나 삼바 디리직 삼로유도 삼발라 소스 삼로디 쿠양고 싶으치도
So actually, when we think about this, how does this actually benefit us? In a sense, when we consider the happiness of another person, we're concerned with the well-being of another person, and we consider their problems, we analyze, we explore the problems and difficulties that they have, our mind becomes expansive, our mind becomes calmer and more expansive.
삼륜나로리아 직콩로다 착도다 딘데 쉬우여딩이 티다 직 삼륜나로리아 직 셴리아 삼로당 투바 직 셴세알리아 직 토나치 투년이디 두르이나 직 셴리아 삼로당 투년 셴리아 참제치 투년디 삼로랑 신기 코연거와
So if we compare those two, the mind of a person who's full of anger and envy and competitiveness versus a person who's concerned for the welfare of another person, if you compare those two, then the person who is interested in others' interests, who's loving, who's kind-hearted, their hearts are much more open, much more relaxed.
딘데 왜 잠재다 딘데 제체비나 소스 삼로 디 고양보지 충분히나 텔 때네 소스 삼로 기부 연구로
So therefore by thinking of others' well-being, our own if we think of others' well-being, our own thoughts will be more relaxed, will be calmer and more open.
디 충분히나 소스로 팽거와
So this helps ourselves.
세상 안 딘데 삼발라 지금저 직 참바단 세워서야 돼. 즉 최저리네야 하장기 계신 분은 송고 열을라. 즉 소소 삼로 파페고 용야라야 쉬우직 편도 열을 딘데 아주 균드네. 즉 최를 도나다 대버 여보소이네야. 예봐도 즉 잠제 냠내 쳐야 돼. 하장 계신 분을라. 즉 최를 대버 매비네야. 즉 잠제서야 돼. 또 등길러버는 신기 샘기 디기 용야기 고저부지 차대도 딘도 최대 유미 상물로리야 백해심 차대요.
So therefore, with regard to love and compassion, they being so important, love, loving kindness, those kind of constructive states of mind. So from the point of view of Dharma practice, they're extremely crucial. So to bring forth peace, like have a peaceful state of mind, for that it's extremely crucial. And so therefore love and compassion are seen as essential in Dharma practice. But even if you don't have interest, if you don't have faith in the Dharma, even then it is seen as a way of making our mind happier, of bringing happiness and well-being of the mind.
대신도 지조를 삼담바이네야. 지금 다들 정불링 나로리야. 답배때 녀도 쉬어요.
So like should I turn around? Oh. So likewise, with regard to this world in terms of society, so with love and compassion, again, there's just society will fare much better as opposed to not having love and compassion as part of the society.
즉 대베 다 뒤질 차샤비네야. 그렇지 먹주단 진짜게 쇼제게 강에 춤브레 아 뒤로 미슈베 나는 삼르스담비네야 다 먹주게 펜수서리 따니 강에 쇼 춤브로.
If you look at the past, just look at the past events, the different wars that were fought. So in particular in the 21st century, so much killing, so much murder and so forth took place as part of the different wars that were fought.
근데 뒤로 미슈베 나로리아 대베당 아주 뒤로 미슈베 대 첨바이네야. 즉 파수 세리단 즉 미 패진 사야게라 하 마다 먹주다 된게 겜베 세리시 담버레 디 세리 담비 규림이나 로리아 즉다 미게라 먹고 시고야 즉다 대단 제역이 더직 능미 빙가 쇼강에 최대야 대zam도 마서 점린 치려야 다 강에 쇼 춤부르.
And so we look at the 20th century, this past century. So basically there have been so many wars, there's been so much murder. Hundreds of millions of people were murdered, were killed. And there was so much suffering. So when we think about this, the suffering that came forth as that, where family members were affected by that, relatives were affected by that. So just the amount of suffering, the amount of misery that was a result of that. We just think about that.
다 단다 들어 미스적지바 도스 아주 도스 적지베 나로리아 네데요레 다 들어 미슈베갈로 강에 슈브지 중요르딜레 들어 제벌로니 미스적지바 차버레딜레 강에 단다 잠리 나로리아 지 먹투레 펜스서리 다야다 디 슈용도 단다 이내 강에도 여러봐.
So then, with regard to this 21st century we live in now, so it's a new century has dawned. But nonetheless, despite all the trouble that people experienced in the previous century, even nowadays it continues on. The problems continue on with so much killing each other, so much war, and so forth.
직 단다이네야, 직 아프리카레 다네싱기, 직 사자 망고나로와, 다직 시리아사다 내준 나로리아, 다직 세리타.
And so therefore, if we look at countries such as Africa or what's happening in Syria, so in so many countries right now, there's still killing going on, injuring each other, and so forth. So many problems. And so the cause of that, the cause of all these troubles, is that in those places, at those times of trouble, love, compassion, kind-heartedness, they're missing. They're not sufficient. They're not sufficient in those places.
다 잠재기 칼로레 미딘쇼 지 콩로다 나게다 지 차고다 제셈다 딘들 때네 신경을 띠다 베디
And so the opposing forces to love, compassion, and so forth, which are anger, aversion, resentment, jealousy, and so forth, they caused so much misery. So many problems were caused by them.
점닝 조다 변조레 첩시레 대신도 내다 망고 쉬우시기 펜스 때네 내대요로 딘데 점닝 지레야 녀고 망고 쉬운데 삼발라 점닝 디나로 예베 미퉁그 상물로리아 강에 치존로 모두에 상마강에 스테고도
And in particular with regard to the present, the contemporary society here, so there's so many living beings in this world nowadays, and so also because of the anger, because of those negative kind of states of mind, they're all affecting us. So in the different countries, whether it's with regard to wealth or with regard to politics, so because we're all dependent on one another, so the trouble in one place affects other beings due to that interdependence.
지금이마 차샤비네야 니돈 치글이야 아메리카리아 다 총제 강고 도르겐 숑브로 디 도르겐 숑니 디가블리네야 지금 점블링 몽골리아 벤조다 강에 슈지 누구도 torsa aril torberetile zumbling na rol kange shuchik chagdo.
So if we think of, for instance, on 9/11 in 2001, the events at 9/11 when the World Trade Center was destroyed, well, at that time actually the place that had been attacked was the United States, but because of the interdependence it had a rippling effect in terms of economics and so forth, which negatively affected also other countries in this world.
대신도 다지기 단다이네야 베나카상한 예자라 지 울수도가 침브레 대인도다 지 러시아 침바이네야 지 계급 대 지단 톱 침브레 이네야 계급 신다 지 유럽다 어리단 디즈 제와단 디데기 켄신 계급 신기 제외 켄신 울수로 강에 쉬우직 차기도.
And so likewise Rinpoche has recently been to Russia. So when he was in Russia is such a huge country, such a powerful country, but due to the interrelations, so the interrelations with other countries such as Europe and the United States and so forth, other countries, so therefore there's a lot of trouble that Russia has been facing due to the relationship with other countries.
지금 러시아 나로리아 지금 미망고 쉬우직이다 지 레가 쇼야레 다는 생기 지금 라자 총을 줘야래 비직 벤조기 강에 태야래 다들 지금 러시아는 여기 미 하나만선에 지 가자 고베이나 민망할이야. 강에도 채디기도.
네.
인디 딜레데는 지금 상물로 셈제다. 배강이 심부르셔.
So therefore in Russia right now, due to that interconnectedness, therefore there are a lot of problems and people are very worried about those. Unemployment has gone up, the salary has gone down, people find it hard to make a living, so it's actually the majority of Russians who are affected by that and they're greatly worried.
인디 지 단다 계급 빈수이네야. 대신도 지 계급직이 나로 인해야지 사제 빈수 제 로아 간다 상물로 판 빈수 때는 데데요래. 인디 지 점린 찔이야. 디기 직당 점린 찔이야. 지 강망망게 점된다. 근데 지 충분히는 점린 딜이야. 편도 첨부 쇼용으로.
Not it. And so with regard to countries being dependent on one another, living in a relationship of interdependence, as well as within a country, there's this interrelationship, that interconnectedness. And so this being the case, since all these living beings in those countries want happiness, therefore it is important to bring forth to the best of one's ability, to the greatest possible, in the greatest possible way, to bring forth this love, this happiness by way of implementing these states such as love and so forth.
인디 그런서 지 정말로 삼로 고양보다는 로아 지 삼로 야심부직당 학보던 가란솔이야 밀이야 지 도와시엔을 매베 지 남주 삼로 디 린단심부 남주 자심부도 요리 디 남주의 배주체 지 소소 디기 주베이네야 컨데스 두고요 봐. 지 소소 지조리네야 컨데스체 펜데 연구고요 봐. 난 지 지조를 펜데 주는 소소를 펜데 컨데 연구요 봐. 된선 간서 삼로 따네. 남주의 배주체고도.
So therefore it's important to be very relaxed, calm, and have a vast kind of attitude. And then use this intelligence, this unique intelligence that we possess, to use it in an effective way. So how can we really be happier? And how can the society we live in be happier? Because this society, if we benefit this society, what is the benefit that we have? How does it benefit us? So how to basically bring forth more happiness for ourselves and others. This is something we need to consider with this intelligence that we have.
먼저 단답어도 미 남주에 초직 미 디기 주베하게 초직 지 벤조다 튕긴다 치 뭐보다 되게 더 쉬워지게 배주체요래 남주 때요래 이내 초신직데 그런 속에 디기 요약이 개체직이 더블럼 직나 삼류 톤에 디기 주베하다 대기 자와디직 참제사야다 딘제기 털은 저기 단답어도 지찬에 남주 다 또야데 싫어 중요 뭐 데베급을 차샤비는 지금다 갸르로 첨비나 로이갸라 몽골 하버도 로동라 혼리아 좀 생겨 좀 되는데 대신도 디 예연 중심교육 추규 몽고지 줄로 몽고지 대단 제외 제 개바다 전라 몽고지기 남 생팜 그 톤에 디기 주야가야 배제 몽고나요래 삼로 몽고나요래 이내양 버겁지기 쉬우지기 단 냠자 갸갈이네 냠자 침벌에 대신도 전부는 찔리네요 난 삼로던 제베 톤이 디기 쳐야던 데서 털이야 삼단에 숙충으로 친 치변조를 딘데기 털이야 디기 주야간 소 배준신 도식 침벌해
Nadi. So therefore when we say until now with regard to human society, so human society has used its intelligence for the pursuit of happiness, but that pursuit of happiness was seen in wealth, in creating conducive external conditions, in material development and so forth. So but actually what has been neglected in that process, which is even more important, is internal happiness, which comes from love, compassion, and so forth. So those have been neglected. So actually in India, many thousands of years ago, when the Buddha was around, and there were other spiritual systems, there were these great masters, including the Buddha, who found psychological means, who explored the psyche, our human psyche, and explored the possibility of finding happiness from within our own mind. And this unfortunately has deteriorated over the years. The advice by these masters, this exploration has been neglected. And nowadays there's too much emphasis, Rinpoche is saying there's too much emphasis on just material development, on external factors.
Tindu ta debel lojara kashina lolia ji lopsoda digi jube tablam di zo chingo baden jewe dinde to zo ji chine bezen chebre tela dene pendo chimbu chungyori yineya tanda ji tingin da jewe che to shujege 약게 침부 신여들에 점린 나로리아 지 미들이야 강에디 지 응어균는 신기 내대요를 하고도 단다 지금 지 생감다 내절이야 강에디 땡외를 채를 두고요래
맞아요.
제 땡외 로자라 카셰 콘다 단다 채베이나 지 단다 점블링디 나로리아 샘기 강에 채네 지 미정시 개별에 다는 신기 지 생감기 강에 채네 생감 마디와 차야다 In
particular, so when you look back a few hundred years now with the material development, with the progress in education and material making the environment more materially conducive and so forth, so of course there has been a lot of great development and has been a lot of positive aspects to that. But if we look closely, actually it's not the case that the problems of this world have been solved with material development. In fact, there are new problems now, new problems which are of a mental character. So whereas earlier on there were different problems that people faced, nowadays there's so many psychological problems, so much suffering in the terms of mental problems. So there's more suicide, there are more psychological impairments and disorders. So despite the material development, those are the new problems we face at this time.
Tindu ta tanda zamblin nalolia manguchigi tonashene ta chingobo dan dindegi tone yarge chigogi ngarzo migi digi di yonsu chi kong tobaji yungu mindos chene tanda tazu sene ra samloji yange legi yore
so therefore in this world nowadays there are some great thinkers who actually pay attention to this. There are people who pay attention to this and understand that just material development is not sufficient, that there's something else that is also needed.
che andi tone da khashureji digi jubeya de chik semkhamda dindeji tone digi koyadi kechimbudu chene tona sabaji legi yore.
And so bringing forth happiness by way of one's psyche, so to bring happiness, to bring about happiness from the mind, from the psyche, so there's a new interest now into that kind of new development.
Chis nang the samlo de pa peboda chik semgi digi sayadi azu ta kechimburasha chene tazul di chomanguchine pena amjinal re thane shingi chik chenriba re manguchigi samlo lengu yore amji soyineya nebadan denzoleya 나자 자기 영향다 된줄 야 맨지고 멤버 즉 삼로 톤에 즉 삼로 기부래 즉 심슈래 안데서 개심부 임보다 니레기 탄다 도나한다 아니 개심부 뭐 지기여로
In particular with regard to feeling peaceful, with regard to peace of mind here, there are a lot of physicians, there are a lot of scientists nowadays who do pay attention to this. So there are a number of doctors now, numerous doctors, who understand that a disease can not only be cured through physical medication, but also that the mind plays a huge part. So the importance of the mind, the importance of mental well-being, mental happiness has been recognized now, and there's a lot of emphasis on the type of attitude one needs to adopt, on like generating internal happiness, determination, courage, and so forth.
제 티신도 그런서 지금 삼로 콩로다 니레지 타도다 샘보 먹기베여 버이는 나서 임버이네야 나서 차야래야 고부 차야 지가 아니 직 타나를 심버이네야 샘보 먹기버도 니르 먹고시 제베이나 아니 지그 착시 뭐냐버 다는 생기 나서 먹고시 술래고도 닝가 나서다 니레지 나서 매버 이네야 나서 고수요야 내가 심버이네야 나서 둘 줘야지 티 도저 직 샘보 구양보다 샘보 기우도 니레지 여베이나 나서 말레야야 펜도 계신 나서 여베이네야 나서 자기 영향도 니레래야 펜도 즉 여베지 뭐여로 봐 진짜지네 디데기 톤에 타나 음지인제네 개심부지 쓰디기 요래 드리면서 토나 사버지 치기 요래.
So likewise with regard to certain states of mind such as anger, aversion, jealousy and so forth, so it has been found by scientists, by physicians, that people who are sick, who have physical illnesses or ailments, that they suffer more, as in like they don't get better as quickly if they have these negative states of mind. Versus then also a person who is well. Actually, it's been found by scientists. Scientists have found that if you're well, but you have a lot of anger and so forth, it causes diseases. It brings forth diseases in the body, such as it harms the blood pressure, it brings up the blood pressure, it's bad for the heart. So therefore, from the point of view of physical well-being, that those who are sick don't get better with certain states of mind, because the negative states of mind, they find it harder to get better. And those who are well, they actually get worse because of those states of mind. So that has been nowadays recognized by many physicians, by many doctors, and they pay special attention to that. They consider that to be really important.
티신도 지 먼저 롭소 쟁예 여러봐 지조 롭소 쟁예 롭소 쟁예다 망고치기 지조디 야고 용야레 미치라버레 지조디 야고 용야레 상물로 개심부직디 나 삼로단디 개심부 삼로 yargeere sembo koyang bokoya ta tishindu jisolya jil miktobe samlo dinde kechimbu do cheneta ta do tona chimbuji chigi yorwa
Likewise. I need to change this around? Okay. So likewise, educators in this world, they also pay special attention to this fact that a lot of the problems in this world, or the well-being of this world here, depends on internal qualities, inner qualities, so such as an expansive kind of mind, a relaxed and calm mind, and also concern for others, a concern for others, and a kind of concern for society, that those are all very important aspects of a human psyche.
안 하버도 지 겨울음식에 다 데벨로 몽골인 갈이야 지 점니 시디 요야 다는 신기 지조 나로리아 펜데 요야기 차례 럽지 먹고 쉬나요래.
나지. In particular, for the last several years, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, for many years now, has made a special effort to bring forth peace in this world, and has made a special effort to bring benefit to human society.
딘데위 지졸이야 펜데 요야다 딘데기 찰레 랍신나베나레다 소르디 지조 코레나로리아 직 참제 지조디 참제 다 덴베 지조 요야 직 참제 토네 직 점니시디 요야 참제 토네 지조디 기부 요야 딘데 직 토로 소 공시 랍신나 요레.
And so here, in particular, what His Holiness's focus has been is to benefit society. So the way to bring forth benefit to others, to our society, is through love, compassion, kind-heartedness. So this is really what brings forth benefit to our communities, and it brings forth happiness. It is that which leads to happiness. And so this has been His Holiness's intention, this is His Holiness's goal for a number of years now.
제 아니 데벨로 몽골인갈이야 딘데비 참제 토네 이제 코리오 상고용야 딘데 토려야 저 럽진남비 규림 나로려야 제 체리보다 지 여러분다 단다보도 체리보디 지찬에 자외 체리베 미유디 지조 야고용야다 밀레샴데 조에 조지레 딘데비 지조 다 밀레샴데 조에도 조디 마란주 고호 직치 들어봐 다치 간주 가라고 그래 칭호보다 제베 톤이 소 yar겠다야 지 쉬우지 탑시 쳐요래 딘데일 때는 간주 편도 중요를 들래 응원에게 ngaranzu 편도 영역이 시소를 지디 나 삼로던 제베 톤이 들어봐 예 직미 지조디 나 삼로던 제베 톤 미지조 샴데 조야래 된수 체리베 단도보도 돈나 친구 중요 말에 돼.
So for the many past years, so for many years now in the past, His Holiness, in order to serve society, human society, he has come together with scientists. He's met with scientists on several occasions. So actually, in his attempt to work for others. And so far, these scientists have also been active in bringing material development and so forth. But until now, they've not really paid much attention and this is like a new understanding now, and so forth. They have not paid attention that the actual basis for happiness is not mere material development, but it's also development of the mind, internal development. And so now there's slowly an interest developing in that fact.
Din David Lomangurin Galia, Jig Senriba, the Pensu Jizolia, Zamnin Gita, me, Tungu Dunju, Chambeda, me Jizo Delia, Shamdi Juvia, Kudu Mangushinani. And Jig Senriba in a Jig Senribu Manguchik, Unegi Senriba, Jig Keba, Namju Dingo Manguchik, the Zuguni, Chingo Chigo, Toning, me Digi Juviadi, Galakapurisha, that did the Nyamdo, Chingo Tunging Ton Digi Juvia, Zamdo Masebe, and Jig Nangi, Samlu Tone, Riva, Jig Milia, that is all the digging and the catching Burishas, the Regia, the Zoo, and Curious Nedra, the day of some landed under Sensible Monguchi Chayo, it is all Gaurum Shake, that under the Gula Monguchi and the dish showing your dinner Sensible and Sensible Monguchi, Namju, you think you get a you think Monguchi, Tona Savage Lady.
Naji. So for these many past years, so His Holiness in his effort to work for human society, to work for the 7 billion living human beings on this planet, having come together with these different scientists, in his effort, he's been able to help many of those scientists, numerous of them, so very intelligent scientists, very educated, and very famous, many of them very famous. So he's basically helped them to come to understand that those external facilities are in themselves not enough. That is our internal way of thinking that is important. So for society, that's what's most important, that internal attitude. And now many of them have changed their own opinions about mere material developments. They have come to recognize that the internal is so important, plays such a huge part. And this is due to His Holiness, the Dalai Lama's great effort, working so hard to make these very famous, these very intelligent and highly educated scientists to come to that particular conclusion.
Tesamdo Masebe, Jig Nangi, Samlu, Jig Chambada, Sewada, Jig Chokshe Sayada, Semba Sambo Chawura Sayada, Denzo, Che, Kitoni, Dishikungiore, Tedanyamdo, Dinreve, Ranso, Digi Druagi, Chashajia, Oil Chatiore. Chöle dishekyom sanglogi chö kyangba chegoye ngeba yomarba nganzo ji chöne misangbo chegol sungoyore töngoye layang ranzo misangbo chegogu yorba tin disambala je chambadan sewadan dezu samlo ya che chöjone dishekyemil modebe ngoyele ya ranzogi gogoyoba jikta a dinrebe chambadan sewadan dezu jingansolya 펜도 연구여버디 지금 뭐에도 틈베 토네 맞을이야 지금 토나래야래 지존나로래야 텔래야 지금 슈긴 체를 줘야 가는 차례슈 나요래
맞지. So not just that, it's also that it's love, compassion, it's contentment and so forth. All these internal qualities, actually these mental qualities, they bring us so much benefit. So, of course, from the point of view of talking in a dharmic context, from the point of view of talking of the Buddha Dharma, of course they're very important. Those are all important factors that are crucial for one's personal Dharma practice. But also just in general, for any person, even not talking from the point of view of the Dharma, they're important for everyone's happiness. These bring happiness. This is true in actuality. This has nothing to do with any kind of religion. This is practical in the sense that it actually leads to real happiness. So this is something that we need from the point of view of the Dharma and from the point of view of non-religious, just reality. So from that point of view, it is something we need to pay more attention to, and it's something His Holiness has been working so hard towards to make people see it that way.
대신도 잠세 된소직 신유랑기 토네 지속이 팬들 주비야 된지직 토리야 당기 주변의 신기 다 굴려 먹고 끼어네 단다 이내야 시 아메리카 대바레 라프라 망고직 딜로 토나체네 지금 저기도 봐 토나체네 직 참바단 세와서 된소직 라프라 랑기 롭생이 나로리야 직 주야 단데가 토나치기요래라 직 갸가 나로리네야 투룸 라브르데 주스치게 신유랑기 토네 알아서 미기 지소디 야게 줘야기 고고랑기 체도 신유를 최기 깨지면 뭐지 신유랑기 토네 아 지금 labdena namgyu chi lobsen nang shingi labya tinde chene tanda thurin labra juice chigi tanda thurin labra juice chigi tanda thonaji chigi yore
So in particular what His Holiness has also been advocating and working towards is to bring love and compassion into education. So to make this part of modern education, so for instance in the USA, United States has paid a lot of attention to this, to new educational tools where love and compassion become part of the curriculum. It has been integrated in the modern educational curriculum, understanding that this has been missing previously. And likewise in India, nowadays there are about 10 colleges, 10 kind of universities who have actually integrated now these ideas of bringing love and compassion into education. They have integrated this, so they have seen the need for that, which His Holiness has advised on, His Holiness has been working so hard towards.
Tishindu nubjodan denzun alwaliya labjodan denzun labjare tishindu lopsu trenye manguche chambada anjik zewa tsembe sangbe yunden denzo lopsu tene lopsu tebe miso tendengi pendo cheingudus 지 롭종 체베이네야 지 롭종을 준주시를 줘야 대신에 지도나로이네야 편수 첨전 체야 아니 닌데 그 롭스요와네 제리네야 지도를 겐키야 인den서 숙체도 체네 편도 첨부도 체네 건조 딱제 체네 닌데 냠용스네자 좀제들이 튀어요래.
So likewise, there are many educators who give training in different Western countries, so the United States and other Western countries, and so they have seen that through the integration of love and compassion in their curriculum, there have been great benefit. A lot of benefit has been reaped from this particular type of new education. So in terms of the studies improving, in terms of one's effort, there's more effort, more enthusiastic effort that the students engage in. There's more harmony among the students and the teacher body. The students take more responsibility for their actions. So all this has been analyzed, has been explored, has been investigated basically by these different educators, and they have found that to be the positive outcome of bringing these factors into education.
대신도 단 예샤라 야 갸게 안데 게사 그러와 딜리 첨바이네야 제 겨울음식 다 로망고든가 다제 굴레게 된데게 제 남된나네 에 갸게 신유 망고치기 딜 토나체 냠시체네 단 예샤라 갸이 딜리 랍자 직다 진짜 개버버도 진짜 원존네 스네다 다 직 진짜 개버 파도 니만님의 롭생이 나로리아 지 상부 셈단제 롭소 그와 참바제와서야다 지 텐즈 난 셈단제 롭소 생밤을 리버단제 롭소 안전서 지 롭생이 나로리아 티야기 그 스템베 체거래.
So recently, also in Delhi, in the capital of India, so His Holiness has been serving as a mentor for this new project, and a lot of educators, under the guidance of His Holiness, have investigated in the merits of integrating love and compassion in their curriculum. And as a result of all that, now from the 8th grade until the 8th grade, so from the preparatory kind of classes all the way to the 8th grade, now they started to integrate on in the school this on an everyday basis, the study of love and compassion. So to develop internal psychological qualities that has been now officially become part of their curriculum, part of their education in India until the 8th grade, to develop people's love and so forth.
Delhi kuliya shungi labda tindeliya ta deus che tempe shungi yore kaza dawa dagaran re chindu timbe teri niliya gaurum shimigi pene konsu tempe tinde chebre shungi labda tongra jik che labda tongra jigi nalo luptru pumgeliya dus chig labya jik chadi yore.
And so, therefore, because of all this investigation and this governmental kind of decision, now 1,000 government schools have adopted this scheme. And His Holiness just recently went to Delhi in this month, in July, in the month of July, on the 2nd of July. His Holiness went to Delhi on that occasion, where the government had made this decision, 1,000 schools with 100,000 students in them, that this is the new curriculum, making this part of their official education.
봄게
Bumge.
8,100.
Bumge is not
봄게.
800,000.
동다게 가서다
800,000.
동다게게로
800,000. Yeah, so
세상
800, so Geshe is saying, Rinpoche is saying, so 800,000 students are affected by that.
세상 딘드 삼발라 다 탄다 딘제기 칼라오레 직 토나 사바직 레기요레 딘드 삼발라다 직 참바사야 나 제와던 제외 가란수기 직 샘함던 제외 그와 상부 연된도 모여기 가란수로야 펜도 여버직 다 차거요레 이내양 가란수기 지다 롭스트쇼레 딘제지기 가란수기 당길러버는 신 디기 사이드 직 칠로 깡깡 체네 아니 직 샘르 나로네 디기 주비하다 데서 간로 토나 배 주주 단다고 딘제직 지속으로 딘제직 차대요레 땅가란수 칠로 튕긴기 드레베 토니 디기 요한 뭐 짬도 마서 쪼디 디기 땡가란수 쌈르 톨 툭대요 칠로기 튕긴 근데직 좀바이네야 쌈로디 뭐김나 먼저 디기 차고 말어 베나 칼라 상부 칼라 심부시 세비네 샘디 뭐기비네 칼라디 심부케 말해 다음에 이제 강바 야분한 데네자 모터 야분한 존네자 벤조 근데지 요바이네야 샘버디 기부 매바이나 아 되게 튕긴 텔 때는 가란수를 디기 단 대화직 제 도움이도
Najila. So now, therefore, it's important to give an interest, to have an interest in that, since it is so important. So to integrate love, compassion into our own life, because it brings so much more well-being. So it's definitely something that. Of course, we live in a society where material development is valued over everything else. So this is the difficulty, but it has become very clear that this in itself is just not sufficient. So it's actually our training, society we live in. It suggests that it is actually material development, the possessions, wealth, and so forth, that actually bring us happiness. But if we check, it's actually not the case. Why? Because if we are really wealthy and we have everything in terms of material possessions, but we are not happy internally, we won't be happy about whatever we're experiencing. So if you just take food, even you have the most excellent, wonderful food, if you're unhappy, you won't be able to enjoy the food. If you have a great house, but you're unhappy, you won't be able to enjoy your house. If you have a wonderful car, a big car, without happiness, you won't enjoy that. So any wealth without internal happiness, without psychological basis of love, compassion, and so forth, no way can you actually really find happiness in those material objects.
제가 딘드다 우주 생팜 기톤 디기디 캐침부슈직 도시 차버데 땅무여레 가서 삼로 땅보이나 신야지 요버레 따디 제 상계기 숭샤 다가는 신계 슝기나로 숭샤서 디지고메가 소소 냠냠 토네 하코에 지르바 내가 주디 셈바 기부면은 기부메바 셈바 기부요니 기부 요버데 소소 칸 낭도 촌에 삼로 땅나 신야 요버치레 딘드 아주 생강 기톤에 디기디 슈 캐침부직단 따 딘데 왜 생팜도 제베 롭소 제 상계의 최는 더 개셔차되어래 딩외니 수래 딩도 아주 상계의 최를 때네 즉 삼함게 롭소다 즉 셈버 약게 따야래 셈게 강에 메버스웨게 탑시디 상계의 최는 개셔인도 삼발라 다 딘데지게 가란소기 디기 사이도 즉데 셈함게 디기 임버된 아주 라시 최고유나 아니 즉 최를 때네 가란소 최를 태버여 있네 태버메버 있네 된 상물로야 펜도 연구여버진 아주다 랑신기 고알레야레스
Yes. And so, therefore, since our personal happiness is that which we actually want, and since these external objects, so since our psychological state of mind, so it really comes from our own psyche. Happiness comes from our own psyche. So this is where it really comes from. And these material things cannot provide us that happiness. So it has to come from our own psychological, from our psyche itself, from our mind. So this is something the Buddha has taught, and we should not take it on face value just because the Buddha said so. We should think about this. We should analyze and explore this personally until we come to a first-hand experience that happiness just cannot be found unless there is a happy type of mind. So we can all come to understanding of that. If we're psychologically not happy, if our psyche is not happy, we cannot enjoy any material goods. So therefore, this importance needs to also become part of our education, of our understanding, and so that we learn about the psychological means and methods that are presented in the Buddha Dharma, because they basically provide means and methods and explanations on how our psyche can be happier. And so this is most extensively found in the Buddha Dharma. The Buddhist teachings are all about that, transforming, that is, bringing happiness to our psyche, to our psychological state. And so this is what it's important to understand. Now, if you have faith in the Dharma or not, it doesn't matter. This is just reality. This is just the way it is. And you can fully benefit from those different explanations that you find given in those scriptures.
Oh, yeah.
So there's not that much time left, but if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask.
Yes, if you have any questions, just raise your hands, we'll bring the mic to you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Rinpoche, for your advice. I have one question. If one finds oneself in a very tense situation, and therefore naturally one feels very angry, depressed, or sad, how can one, at that point in time, have that calmness, relaxed mind, and happy mind?
他是每次呢，这大家老大这呢，就吃了差不多，就尿的差不多，穷了啦，第一件钱呢，说别什么给我吃去，你说空着了说的，就现在到是空呢啦，大家老大lang呢，第一个说了什么贵样不吃呀，什么好了吃呀，什么给不吃了，他不啷看了。
알레 제제 따라 다 땡길러는 신경하면서 지금 밀려야 지금 딴 남주에디 자충부디 쉬우지 열어 봐.
So as we said before, remember she mentioned this earlier, that human intelligence is very precious.
띠인도다 가르 거르선 초진에 균두네 알아서 지 공로다 디레지 양양 쓰게 열에 이내 양알아서 균두네 삼루다네 지 공로서야 디 세비나 지 소설이야 편도 매봐 공로 세비나 내준역으로 shum비네 디 매버 중사비네 디 매버 처리 매봐 텔레데네 지 소소 셈버 투그래 샹레이네 먹이부서 그래 딘도 랑셴이가야 먹이부지 처래 딘도 좀 벌 균두네 지 무슨 남주에도 배주체네 공로도 된 소리야 칸토도게 야 담마게야게 탑시샤디 캐치브레
나지 So, with regard to, therefore, this human intelligence, we should use it in a constructive way, such that we naturally become angry. Anger just naturally arises. However, to find means to first understand, are there any benefits to getting angry? Can I undo the situation? If something happens that bothers me, if I grow angry, I cannot change the situation. Then, at the same time, when I grow angry, to explore this, you investigate this. So if I get angry, I get unhappy. I react to the way that makes others unhappy. It doesn't solve the problem. I'm no longer relaxed and so forth. So if you use human intelligence, your intelligence in that way, if you get to understand that anger does not serve any purpose, then slowly you can actually counteract that. Then it becomes, you're able to the best of your ability to reduce that kind of anger by thinking about the disadvantages and so forth.
균두네 디레질리아 공조단 디레게 견통네 소소용의 칸토도기 가야 탑시 셰비나 디 검지 숙체를 쳐 그래. 디 검지 숙체를 치니 디레베 토네 니즈용아서 텔라 사보레 강에도 디레지 중인도 아니 지 공조 왕도 만줘야래 뺀 땡땡이 누버친 부여래.
So if you do this continuously, you grow familiar with this. You develop familiarity with this. So to think again and again about the disadvantages of getting angry, of having aversion. And so slowly, even your life is very busy, due to that kind of contemplation and familiarity with this way of thinking, you will definitely, Rinpoche says, definitely find some change in your psyche, in that you will not get angry as quickly.
티신도 콘도 사이게 긴 딘데다 직 체베 겁리네 또 단단 남기운기 미르시나다 콘도사에 겐텐나 남상 콘도사가 열어 즉 탁도사에 겐텐 탁도사가 열어 다 콘도사야도 딘데지 콘도사에 겐텐도 콘도사가 거리 소소 천나노 즉 소소 콘도 딘데시 세네 소소 숨겹 지기에 숨겹 지기에 천나를 지어들 원에게 콘도사도 소소를 뉴열에 딘데 먼저 콘도사에 겐텐도 sabala kurtu dagaran o 콘도사나 제랑 신이가야 펜도메 삼네 딘데지기 토네 바직 채비나 간sam들 겁을 까토 그래. 간sam들 겁을 까마토 베네. 콘도사에 겐체인데 딘데 양세 채비나 림베 콘도 충을 줘야지 다. 콘도 강에 맞서야 펜도 친구인 그랬어.
Nadila. So therefore, basically, if we understand that with regard to anger, there are certain conditions that trigger the anger, certain conditions that naturally bring forth this anger, or jealousy, envy, and so forth. So, but actually, we also need to understand there is a sense with anger, there's a natural sense that this protects us. That if we get angry, it helps us. But we need to understand that that is actually not the case. That is this not helping us. In fact, it's the opposite. It is harming us. Anger harms us. And so we need to understand that it harms us and it harms others. So once such an understanding arises, you may come through familiarity to this point where either anger doesn't arise at some point, it no longer, even the conditions are there, it doesn't get triggered, or at least it gets reduced. You're able to at least weaken it, reduce it.
Okay. The next day,
Other questions? Okay. Do you need a mic? Yeah.
Thank you for your compassion, Rinpoche. So my question is, when you talk about happiness and how you shouldn't be attached to possessions and material wealth, I'm thinking, what if our happiness comes from cultivating meaningful, purposeful relationships? Is that considered a form of attachment that we shouldn't take as something that we want happiness from? Like if that's our source of happiness?
Can you define purposeful relationship?
Like if our source of happiness comes from wanting to cultivate purposeful relationships with the people around us that we love, is that considered a form of attachment because it's not from within? Yeah.
Okay. Tatanda Rinpoche ninjila tashinas. Ani tanda kusuya di karisna tan namjing anzun dewa di chakpa nyungdu dayala dewa yoya res. Tadi yone ina, tingwene ina, ta nganzu chi mila dewa tandan dembe dewa chik chuna, odi tanda dewa gyudo chade yoresra. Tatanda niya kandishu da chik tandan dembe dewa sna kharre, tatanda mit penzun dewa yobadi da tandan demba dewa chira. Odi dewa gyudo, deki gyudo chade yore.
네. 먼저 미담이기 펜주기 지금 제와디 상부 충분이나 먼저 상물로야 펜도 요에 직책이 열어 봐.
So to have positive, purposeful, as the word that you use, like purposeful relationships, of course they help each other. There is something beneficial that help humans one another, help each other.
Ben 김산지기 남 샤샤비네야. 김산디나로리야. 능미 니스 뭐시메비네야. 능미 니보디 펜스 제와야 오면은 니절로 김산 비치로네야 난 로인데 난도 고통보다가 샘난 직다 가르치다 배 그런 쪽으로 삼상기 지금 연구도 뭐 기분 신고도 이제 연구도.
So if you take, for instance, a family, even though there are only two family members, if those two family members don't have a good relationship, well then if one of those members goes outside, well first of all, none of them are happy, and if one of them goes outside, as they return, they just see the door of their house, they don't want to return, they just want to run away. So both are not happy if their relationship is not a good relationship. So it's important to have a good relationship.
김산디나로리야 난산도 참고 여비나 배 상물로리야 나라야 로니에트네. 상물로 배 기우시네 시고 여러분.
And if within a family there's love, there's a loving kind of attitude found in this family, then the different family members look forward to returning home and being with their family.
딘정도 단다 지속이 나로리야. 강에 먹고 쉬우시게 미담이 버로리야. 아니 저와디 야고면네. 배 강에 쉬우인 것도.
나래.
아니 딘데기 토네 미담이 버로리야. 저와면네. 에소소 천나리야. 다 전부링 리토리야 지 소소 지고 하데베 천나. 지 미스 손르지니야 소소리야. 로봇 치기메와. 당내 생기 샘게 나로리야. 직부 선한데 숙청부 쇼인 것도.
So in this society right now, many of our main problems are due to the relationship we have with others. So those being not meaningful, so lacking that meaningfulness. This is one of the main reasons that there are problems in our society. And actually that leads some people to not connect, to not have a relationship with others, which then in turn leads to great loneliness, being totally left on their own, no one to look after them. They feel totally deserted, feel like there's no one there to help them, and there's a great sense of loneliness. So this is a huge problem in our society.
진짜 왜 인도다 지 제외 버루리아 야부 마요야디 삼로 무수 토차네. 연구민도 다 삼로 무수 토고 요야디 소르 찍디 콩로다 셰단다 지 탁도 토벌 때네 연디기 요래. 제와 미드미기 제와레 지속이 제와 야부 용데야디 소르 야부 요야디 지 셴라 삼로 단토니. Shen yagu chuna sambada, Shen ganyan chebada, denzulia, samlo tanto, but the Yubina, Rangshingi, and Jawa Yaguchare.
And so here, with the relationships, the reason some of those relationships turn sour, become negative, is that our focus is too narrow. There's narrow-mindedness in the sense of allowing anger and jealousy and so forth to creep in. So these need to be replaced with different attitudes. Attitudes of thinking of the others, of thinking of what does the other need, what are the problems that the others have, and kind of get our focus on the other person. And in that way, there's more happiness in a relationship.
Oh yeah, that did to this monster.
Oh, so time is up.
Yeah.
Let's take a break now.
You know.
If you have another question, Rinpoche is happy to take another one.
Do we have one last question from the ground?
Yeah.